Now I would like to invite speakers for this session. Sri Kuldeep Sharma, Head RE and DISCOM GIZ. Welcome, sir. May I invite Sri Anupam Shukla, Managing Director, UP NEDA. Welcome, sir. I would like to invite Sri Murali Baggul, Laboratory Program Director, NREL, USA. Welcome, sir. May I invite Ms. Reena Suri, Ma'am, Executive Director, India's Market Forum. She will be joining in shortly. May I invite Mr. Eckhard Troster, CEO, Energetics. Welcome, sir. I would like to invite Sri Samuel Paul, Managing Director, KESCO. Welcome, sir. May I invite Mr. R.J. Wala, Chief Engineer, Distribution, PGVCL. Welcome, sir. I would like to invite Mr. Shivaram Bikkina, Chief Solar Rooftop and EV Business, Tata Power Company Limited. Welcome, sir. May I invite Mr. Baby Mehta, sir, Director, SLDC, Odisha. Welcome, sir. I am pleased to invite Mr. Dhananjay Andekar, Executive Director, MSCDCL. Welcome, sir. May I invite Mr. S.K. Senapati, Head, Sales and Commercials, L&T's Digital Solutions. Welcome, sir. May I invite Mr. Jakir Rathar, Associate Professor, IIT Bombay. Welcome, sir. May I invite Ms. Reena Suri, ma'am, Executive Director, India's Market Forum. Welcome. I am handing over the session to moderator to take forward this session.
So many brilliant minds out here, you never know how time goes. But we will try, because we have a validatory session, we have to end on time. So I apologize to everybody in advance. There's a time bell that will ring. And so we have the panel, the main speakers who are all going to do a PowerPoint presentation. We have discussants, many of them, 8 of them in fact. Only 2 of them will be doing a kind of a PowerPoint or a video. Professor Rathar will have to leave early, so I will call on you early, and we'll take it that way. So this session, by the way, is like a pancake session. In the morning, we started off with the complexities of a utility. We then added EV. Then we added all renewables. This one is now, all that layer and solar rooftop. So you could ask for a more complex equation to an already challenging problem. But nevertheless, we have all these brilliant minds here. They'll solve it for us. So I'm happy with that. So with this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep quiet, and I'm going to let the speakers get their turn at it. So I'm going to call on Mr. Kuldeep Sharma, Head RE and DISCOM GIZ.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much. We see slightly less participation, but that's okay. Yeah. So I will be talking about the 10 million household solarization, or the PM Surya Ghar rooftop scheme that was announced earlier in February 2024 by the Honorable Prime Minister Modi ji. And although the rooftop sector has been already one of a key challenge for the DISCOMs in general, but after this announcement of the 10 million household solarization, this has become an even more bigger challenge for the DISCOMs. I will be briefly talking about the scheme implementation challenges, and then we'll take up some of the key issues which are related to the grid integration aspects. And because of the shortage of time, I would not be going too much in details. but a small announcement with our consulting company, Eckhart, Troyster, and basically the company Energynautics. We have done comprehensive studies on impact of rooftops on the distribution grids, and these studies are available in public, and we are happy to share also afterwards, after the session, and through our colleagues at ISGF, we would be very happy to disseminate those studies further. So without a further ado, this is basically the brief introduction of the scheme. You all know this, and we don't have to spend time on this one. 75,000 crore layout in total, and targeting 10 million households, and we already have more than 1 crore of registrations, which is great. However, we have to see basically what do they convert to. So the percentage from registrations to installations, here you see the top 10 states, and you also see the national average. So here again, our champion states, Gujarat and Kerala, they again shine with a percentage installation from registrations roughly 70% or maybe in 60% for Kerala. And then at the national average, we can see roughly 20% coverage from the registrations to the installations. Now, if we see from the scheme announcement itself, from April onwards, you see the scheme gradually picked up, and after the portal issues or the digital portal issues were solved, the scheme has been picking up quite nicely, and you can also see in terms of the registrations, installations, the scheme is picking up real fast, and also these figures are updated until as of yesterday. Now, coming to some of the challenges of the scheme installations, of course, these challenges, of course, are the technical challenges related to the digital portal, challenges related to the bureaucracy, the complex process of, let's say, registrations, approvals, installation, and then subsidy disbursement. Awareness gap, it is still one of the huge, or let's say one of the biggest challenge. Our lot of population still lives in the rural areas, and the awareness around the solar rooftop implementation is not that great in the rural areas. Resistance from the DISCOMs, I would not blame DISCOMs for this, but this is really, people call it resistance from the DISCOMs, but if one needs to actually look at the perspective of the DISCOMs. Why do they actually resist? And some of the challenges why actually DISCOMs resist implementation of solar rooftop systems, we will see later in the presentation. Some of the recommendations for the scheme implementation as such, digitalization is key. We have to digitalize all the processes, although it is already digitalized through the national portal that has been created by the ministry. However, at the DISCOM level, there are still several steps which are done on paper, and these are to be done paperless, and also all the processes have to be streamlined. Coming to the capacity building part, the DISCOM staff is lacking capacity to implement the rooftop scheme, and the massive capacity building has to be done in order to achieve the 10 million household solarization target. Coming to now some of the grid integration aspects, or let's say the system level challenges, with the increased share of rooftops, the kind of challenges that DISCOMs face. Of course, the voltage issue is one of the largest. Then harmonics, we have some examples also from our state of Gujarat, specifically in the city of Vadodara. They are dealing, or let's say facing some issues in terms of transformer tripping, over voltages issues, and harmonics. And overall, it makes the situation very difficult for the DISCOMs to forecast the embedded generation. And if I can quote an example also from the DISCOMs in Delhi, they face a huge challenge because of the lack of forecast on the embedded generation, and eventually resulting in the DSM penalties. And these are some of the challenges which can be managed, and DISCOMs have learned their own way, specifically the DISCOMs in Delhi. They are implementing rooftop scheme, with wholeheartedly, and also implementing several innovative solutions combined with the storage applications with approvals from the regulators. Now, talking about some of the solutions, of course, grid enhancement or grid reinforcement is one of the key solution, but of course, it is also the most expensive solution. Where shall we do it, or shall we already burden? I mean, the DISCOMs are already facing huge financial crisis Do we already burden again the DISCOMs with the grid reinforcement mandate? No, we don't have to. There are also several strategies with which we can manage the grid integration challenges of the rooftops. Others could be voltage control. The rooftop PV systems, or let's say the rooftop PV inverters, they are capable enough. We have actually conducted also a study on this. The inverters are capable enough of providing reactive and active power control. These strategies can be very useful in terms of managing the voltage. And another solution could be monitoring and control. The rooftop systems have to be visible to the DISCOM operator, yeah, in the control center. The person who is managing the control center at the SCADA level, they should be able to completely monitor and control. And the automated control of the rooftop PV systems has to be enabled. This is something that our regulators need to look in, and also our EPC companies from the inverter EPC companies have to look in, so that the automated control of the inverters can be facilitated. This particular solution could be a game changer, not just in terms of managing the grid challenges, but also in terms of helping the peak shaving or achieving the arbitrage or creating the whole business model for rooftop plus battery storage systems. And similar to what we have in Germany, the zone and community combined with the solar rooftop PV systems, we have the storage, you become the prosumers, and you then also can trade your electricity. So similar business models can be enabled through the monitoring and control and automated grids. Now, coming to some of the key takeaways, with shortage of time, I would not discuss all of them. I mean, this is just the summary of the some of the solutions that we have just discussed. And from the grid integration aspects, we do need grid reinforcement, forecasting, integrated resource planning, and better voltage control, active and reactive both. And for the implementation of the scheme in general, which is the big mandate on part of all the DISCOMs, DISCOM staff training and the digitalization of the process are one of the two key steps that DISCOMs can take. And also, of course, the consumer awareness programs has to be launched. Nationwide consumer awareness programs can help achieve the target. And towards the net zero 2070 target, the rooftop scheme is one of the key element which will help the country achieve the 2070 targets. So I would end with this, and I'm happy to share the studies and reports that we have conducted. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. By the way, GIZ is also a partner of this session, and also they work with ISGF. So very pleased to see the relationship here. Our next speaker is going to be Mr. Anupam Shukla, MD, UP NEDA on rooftop PV programs in UP.
A very good afternoon to all of you present here. Next. So as the first speaker has already talked about the PM Surya Ghar scheme and the initiatives, I would be talking on what all we are doing in the government of Uttar Pradesh and UP NEDA to speed up the installation of solar rooftops across the state. So first of all, starting with the PM Surya Ghar scheme, we have achieved an installation of 46,000 rooftops in the month of around 5 to 6 months. But you were listening to the other speaker before me that Uttar Pradesh has not performed very well with respect to rooftop. So this is an opportunity for people to invest in the rooftop space. It is a business of more than 30,000 crores. So I think we are also promoting new startups in this. If you look at the vendor base, which I'll be talking about, there are around 1,500 new vendors who are a part of UP NEDA, and they have been impaneled by us. And this we are doing in order to increase the penetration of solar PV across different rural, semi-urban areas across the state. We have a consumer base of 3.5 crores. So seeing 3.5 crores and having a state target of 25 lakhs, that is also very less. But if you look at the national perspective, we are the largest state in the country, and we have the largest target with respect to implementation of PM Surya Ghar. Next. So you can see that Gujarat as number 1, number 2 is Maharashtra, and in third we are in Uttar Pradesh with respect to PM Surya Ghar scheme. One additional point which I want to highlight here is the state subsidy. This is not every state is not providing a state subsidy. Some few states in the country, including Uttar Pradesh, is providing a state subsidy up to 30,000 rupees, which along with the Government of India subsidy, it amounts to more than 2/3 of the total cost of installation. Next. This is an area which is useful for DISCOMs. If I see the analysis of Uttar Pradesh, we have around 3.54 crore consumer base, out of which, if we look at the lifeline consumer base, that is around 1.8 crores, in which around 30% belong to the urban area and the rest belong to the rural area. We also have a lot of non-paying customer base out of these lifeline consumers. So we have done certain analysis whereby if you look at the average cost of supply, which is 7.84 per unit here in Uttar Pradesh, and the average billing rate, which is around 6.60, and if we do calculate the total benefit which comes to the DISCOM by installing the solar rooftops, due to the price parity, it comes to around 800 crores. Next slide. This is what we have done. We have done an analysis. What is the saving for the DISCOM for installation of 25 lakh solar rooftops for the lifeline consumers? So the reason why this is because there is cross-subsidization of industrial tariff and residential tariff. And if you look at the lifeline consumers, the tariff are even less than what it exists for the residential. It is around 3.5 rupees. And out of this 3.5 rupees, there is a large consumer base which is also non-paying. So it is a problem for the DISCOM also to increase its collection efficiency with respect to these baseline consumers. And this is the area where the DISCOM should target. And as a renewable energy development agency, it is my responsibility to make this case before the DISCOMs to look at this. And we have already given a proposal to UP Power Corporation to look at it. And I hope a positive outcome will come. Next. When I talk about, although the topic is grid stability as well as, but seeing the present statistics, I think Uttar Pradesh is at a very low level of renewable integration. So if I talk about Uttar Pradesh, we won't have much impact on the grid stability, only if we increase to more than 30% or 40% of integration of renewables, that can be a challenge. But at this level, I think in the next coming 3 years, for which the PM Surya Ghar Yojana is there, I don't think that would be a big challenge. Next. So these are all the benefits which PM Surya Ghar can provide to the DISCOM. Apart from the RPO compliance, there will be a reduction in the subsidy, which I had just talked about. Because the generation is at the point of consumption, so the ATC losses and the T&D losses would also comparatively reduce. The only thing, it is a daytime power. So what we are proposing is that we can have a hybrid model whereby solar rooftop on grid with battery, which can support the evening power consumption as well. Next. Many initiatives we have done of the government of Uttar Pradesh, which I am just highlighting. First of all, the Chief Secretary of the state has issued an order for 25 lakh rooftops. It is a mandatory order which has been issued to all the districts collectors. Apart from that, we have district level committees which we have formed. We have waived off technical feasibility up to 10 kilowatt. Auto load enhancement has been done by the DISCOM. Banks have to be involved because Uttar Pradesh primarily has a lower middle class population, which needs to be catered when we talk about the rooftops. So we are taking up issue with the Department of Financial Services, Ministry of Finance also, to involve the banks in a greater way. With respect to vendor empanelment, we have made it a seamless process whereby in a month, more than 100 to 150 vendors are empaneled. And these are basically local electrical contractors or who have some association with the solar business. Next. One important step which I would like to highlight, representative of the Tata Group are also present here. We have an MOU with the Tata Group for installation of 10 lakh solar rooftops. So we are promoting the big manufacturers in Uttar Pradesh to have a tie-up and support from the local district administration in promoting solar rooftop. We have set up a dedicated call center. We are supporting different districts and DISCOMs in IC activities with respect to funding. And we are also organizing training workshops. What we have seen is that many vendors who have been empaneled, they don't have the basic awareness and how to cater to the public demand. So with the help of Ministry of Skill Development, we are organizing training programs, and we are targeting around 1,000 vendors which will be trained free of cost. It will be a residential training which we'll be doing for these vendors. Next. We have a Surya Mitra and Surya Sakhi program. This is important because semi-skilled manpower for installation and operation maintenance of rooftop is a challenge. So this year we are training around 6,000 Surya Mitras across all the 149 ITIs. And Surya Sakhi program we are trying with the UP Rural Livelihood Mission. So around 60,000 Surya Sakhis we will be training in the next 5 years. And we will be making it a point that each village of Uttar Pradesh has a self-help group which has a member who is trained in the installation and operation maintenance of any solar appliance. So this is our main aim of these two programs. Next. So this is what small initiative which we are taking at the level of the government as well as level of the UP NEDA. We invite people from the private sector to join us in making this a movement in the state. We have a huge capacity. Gujarat and Maharashtra have an advantage of starting early. But yes, we are committed to help all the sectors, and DISCOMs also we want to bring them forward and make it a point that they also participate in promoting the PM Surya Ghar and the rooftop scheme. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shukla. Actually, your presentation, in many parts of the world, rooftop for residential is always a challenge. So your frankness about taking up the challenge was well appreciated. That the reason being the cost of acquisition of a retail customer for rooftop solar is actually a problematic for many, many companies that try to aggregate all these. So your help actually will go a very long way in supporting the private contractors who go and actually try to gather up all these residential customers. So thank you for that. Our next speaker is going to be Murali Bagu, Laboratory Program Director of NREL, USA. So Murali, the floor is yours.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'll probably touch upon a different topic, mostly tied with rooftop solar. I'll delve into some of the grid codes because I think back in 2001, 2002 timeframe, US went through a significant investments in renewables. In the first decade of it, it's mostly wind, and after that, it's solar. But that actually led into establishing the right codes so that we're not impeding the investments as much as possible. Unfortunately, these should be the first things to really go in, but grid codes follow the change in paradigm. So I just want to make sure we're actually working on some of this with India to see how better we can make the grid codes that are needed for the deployments we're talking. With that, again, no knowledge, but I just certainly want to point out that as of October 2024, there is an installed capacity of 85 plus gigawatts of solar PV. You can actually see on the right. This actually includes ground-mounted rooftop and off-grid hybrid systems. Let me just focus on the rooftop because that's what I think we're talking about here. 13 gigawatts of capacity of rooftop connected to exclusively distribution network. I think that's huge. We certainly need some set of codes that are adopted across pan-India so that we can actually do it in the right way possible. And I'll tell you why it is important. Because, we are looking at system stability issues as one of our earlier speakers talked about, and also local power quality, and we want to make sure we don't cause issues by actually this integration, rather solve issues as we do that. In terms of DER standards, I think we need to make sure that the devices provide necessary grid support, also provide stability to the system, voltage support to the system, power quality to the system if needed, both at transmission and distribution level. I think, as I said, right, this is opportunity in disguise. These are smart devices, and we can actually get the maximum out of this if possible. And as we see a lot of this displacing bulk generation, I think we're actually trying to replace the inertia needs of the system through these inverter source resources, and that's one important thing when it comes to power system. As you can see on the left of that graph, you can actually see the different grid codes all the way from 2000, as I was saying. 2003 was the first IEEE 1547 kind of grid codes that we looked at, and then we did a very big revision in 2014. I think the biggest difference is 2003, it was mostly really looking at just disconnect from the grid, and if you really see a power quality issue or voltage issue, or even frequency issue on the system. I think we were able to really modify that to 2014, which is actually looking at, you can actively regulate the voltage and also write through some of the frequency issues and, if possible, provide frequency response. I think 2018 actually took it to the next step, really saying you should be capable of doing voltage regulation and frequency response in the system, and also you need to write through, you don't have an opportunity, you have to write through the voltage or frequency events. You can't just disconnect from the grid, and that's not an option. And more provide voltage response if possible. I think the next revision, which is actually, we don't know the date, but we are pushing hard for grid farming inverters. This is where we are saying there are pockets of the grid that really have a complete production by PV, and that might cause issues very significantly compared to the other grids. I mean, if those are weak grids, right, there might be issues that are needed for power quality and sometimes even frequency if it is islanded grids. So how can grid farming inverters really look at it and do the needed as much as possible? On the right, you can actually see the India version of it. I think India certainly did the 2003 version of it, and we're actually looking at a revision of all the way up to the next three that you look at, but more focused on the 2018. I think we're working very closely with India to really enable the 2018 methods that we have in the US. So we're leaping forward, but with the examples that we already did in the United States on this specific one. We actually worked on a USAID SIF funding project where we looked at the appropriate DER grid codes in India, especially as I was mentioning with the focus on 1547 2018. Really adapting to the Indian subcontinent context and examining settings that are locally appropriate for India DISCOMs. The key takeaways, I think there is really great potential to expand support for DERs in India, and I think the voltage supply characteristics are important as we thought would be, because there is a lot of prevalent distribution system, which is at 240 volts, and voltage support will be key for in those cases. I think we also found that frequency response will be crucial, but probably not immediately, but as we get to a little higher penetrations level, as we can see. The figure on the right actually shows that specific report that was recently released. You can actually go into the website on the right there to look at the expansive report and the recommendations that we did. We took this a step beyond. We just didn't leave it at the fact that we are not looking at the grid codes. We're going to say how better we can do planning to meet these things, because planning is key, right? I mean, the better you plan, the better you can operate. I mean, you'll have a lot less operational issues, and that's what we're trying to look at. And there's also a pathways report for interconnection standards and grid code adoption. As you can see, that's also published very recently. Also, things like equipment certification, because that is important to see how we can follow the grid codes that we are looking at. We also address things like testing, interoperability, and cybersecurity interconnection procedures, and also looking at forecasting, planning, and DER management, all of them in a gamut. I mean, I'm not going to explain the figure on the right, but certainly this particular report delves into the stuff that we did on the planning paradigm. What is next? I think, as you can see, a very classical interconnection process that is used in the US there, the blue in the bottom there. We are trying to see how better we can automate these things. There is actually a tool called Precise, which we kind of developed, I would say, 5 to 6 years back, more looking at how can this be done in an automated process and kind of deployed in some of the utilities there. We also looked at a tool called DISCO, which is more looking at hosting capacity both at PV and EV levels. How can we increase those? I think an example of that is in here, as you can see the graph on the bottom left here. there is big potential or significant potential if you can really automate and modernize the interconnection process and also look at flexible interconnection, which is more like dynamic line rating, where it can push the boundaries of the existing hosting capacity if we do it right. We really came up with a roadmap on this, and all the bullets on the right, bottom right, actually are looking at the roadmaps that is in there. I'll skip this in the interest of time. You can actually look at the report and try to really delve through some of those, as I mentioned. A few takeaways, I would say, we are also working on I would say, a procedure called CADIT, or more a planning and implementation process. This is actually looking at not only the planning horizons, but also the other drivers that are really needed for decision support tools for really developing long-term multi-objective distribution capacity planning strategies. This is where we can say, hey, this is my target. I need to achieve 5 to 10 years down the line. What are the things that I need to consider? We have, interestingly in US, this is we have the opportunity of having some utilities that achieve it in 10 years, some utilities that have aggressive goals. We looked at all those things, but I think what are the important aspects at different levels is what I think we looked at it. This is really based on some of the NREL integration tools. You probably might have seen some of these like DS Grid, DGen. Most of these are open source. We're actually working with Tata Power in Mumbai to see how we can really put it in a study called Mumbai 100. You'll probably hear soon about this, but we're working very closely to see how better we can look at long-term multi-objective capacity planning. And if successful, I think this will really do one of the kind study of how to really take it to the next level. With that, thank you.
Thank you, Murali. There were two interesting takeaways. So one, this is being debated as well. Smart inverter, should it be allowed to control your voltage at the point of common coupling at your house? And many utilities do not want it. This is a global discussion. Utilities generally do not want any third party to come and control voltages on their wires. But as we go more and more proliferating all these PVs especially, a time may come when you have to. So I have had the privilege of working with two very large companies in Taiwan. In fact, they are here in India, where we can inject VARs to get you a nodal voltage that is within plus minus 6% of your house, so that at least you are enabling the support of the voltage for those short periods of time. So that is number one. The second takeaway was every feeder is not the same. The hosting capacity of a feeder, in fact, we have extensively used NREL, even right from 2002, 2003, to be able to show that certain feeders, you make an investment, it's good for you, and you get a good IRR, and you can increase the number of renewables by 300–400%. There are other feeders you can throw money like nobody's business, and you'll barely get 20% increase in it. So that is a second point of discerning, where you have to make an ascertain that is the DER hosting capacity of that particular feeder, however attractive it may look on a piece of paper, is it worth your money to be able to invest in it? So thanks, Murali, for your insights into that. Our next speaker is going to be Mr. Eckhard Troster, CEO of Energenautics, and he will talk of V2G EVVs as VPPs.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for the kind introduction. Ladies and gentlemen, it's an honor for me to be here and bring you a bit the international or German perspective. And I was asked to look into the topic of vehicle-to-grid and electric vehicles as virtual power plants, and how that can actually help to integrate solar power, rooftop PV into the system. It also, I guess, bridges a bit a gap from the previous session where we were talking about the electric vehicles. So I think these two topics fit very nicely together. So when we talk about photovoltaics, we have to remember that flexibility is actually the key to integrate. We know that during the day solar is there, during the night it is not. Heard that already a couple of times these 2 days. And when we look basically at electric vehicles, which are on the rise, actually they have a very high amount of flexibility available. You've seen these figures before, so there's really very high amount of electric vehicles now coming into the system. Also the red one is China, so again we have a lot in China, but also in Germany loads of electric vehicles are actually coming up. And here you can see some figures of Germany, and I would like to attract your attention to the bottom left diagram. And we are pretty proud of the red line, which looks quite low, but this actually shows in 2024 now we have already battery capacities of around about 20 gigawatt hours in our system. And please remember, we are only 10% of the size of India. So more or less every rooftop PV system is actually getting a battery with it. There's more incentives because the electricity price is much higher in Germany. But this is the red line, that's the low line basically. Now we go to the green line. This is actually the capacity which is on our streets in Germany, more than 100 gigawatt hours, which is in the electric cars. And there you can already see there's a lot of flexibility actually in there already. On the right-hand side you can see we have basically the kilowatt hours in the batteries are actually increasing a lot. Might not be as high, or in India it might not be as high, but there's also a trend to larger batteries. And typically for commuting, you only need a fraction of that. Batteries are often sized in a way that you can go for longer distance to replace a proper car, let's say, and therefore you have lots of reserves and free storage capacity available. And that's basically what we should use in the future also to integrate renewable energies. So which options do we have there? First of all, it's smart charging. We need to go for smart charging. There are different approaches on smart charging. First of all, if you're at home, basically, you can try to charge your car based on solar power available. Typically, you also can use your app to control that. The example I have given here is actually a development we are currently seeing in Germany, where, first of all, we are getting, not only in Germany, there's already in the Scandinavian countries, loads of these there. We get dynamic prices. What does it mean? Basically, each hour you have actually a different price at the end consumer level. And what you now can do, if you have your car, for example, you just say, okay, here's an aggregator. My aggregator, please make use of my car. You control my car to charge it whenever you need the flexibility. I only want to make sure that tomorrow morning, for example, at 7 o'clock, my car is full to a certain level in order that I can go to work. And this is exactly what is happening. So we give the flexibility to an aggregator. This can then operate, for example, on a market, depending on the prices, day-ahead market, intraday market, whatever, or even provide ancillary services like frequency control or whatever. So that's flexibility which is used and which will be much more used also in the future. The second topic, which is maybe a bit further down the road, that's the vehicle to grid. So there are already a couple of cars and technologies available. So CHAdeMO, for example, the Japanese standard is actually providing this technology already for years. It's also used in Japan. But also I learned here in India that CCS will be or is the standard. Good news. Also CCS is working on it and will be available very, very soon. And we also have, for example, the Renault 5, which is V2G capable. So there are already cars on the road now in Europe, for example, not only Europe, also US and so on, which are actually V2G, vehicle to grid capable. What does it mean? Basically, you can then store your electricity from solar power in the car and then use it also at a later time, for example, in the evening peak. I know you have this evening peak here in India. Use it then and discharge the car. Here's an example given on the bottom where actually the car is used in a fleet where basically you can rent the car so if the car basically arrives, then it will be charged to 60%, and then Typically, if you want to book a car, you know already at a certain time it will be collected, and during this period, between 60% and 95% of state of discharge, you can actually use it as in flexibility mode. So this is already also active. This is an example from Switzerland. So what does it mean? What do we need? So basically, electric vehicles have a significant unused battery capacity, so which we can use, we should use for system optimization, and we should use this flexibility as soon as possible. First of all, we need dynamic pricing, or maybe in a first step, time of use tariffs that can help a lot. Then we need to go for vehicle on-grids, smart charging, then together with virtual power plants as demonstrated, and on the long run, we need to then go towards a vehicle to grid and expand also the virtual power plants once they are available. And with this, thank you very much, and happy to answer questions and also later on. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Key takeaways out here is the use of vehicle, whether you call it a V2G or even limited V2H, for purpose of load displacement, for helping you're moving from solar charging and then helping it out at night, is another key takeaway here. And the fact that you can operate a cluster of these as VPPs, virtual power plants. In fact, there are 3 extra takeaways for India. In Canada too, we are struggling with this as a part of our standards forming bodies. The one is the technology for the battery, and depending on the technology, where to locate it. Because there are many technologies currently in the world, we will not allow to locate it inside the house. Even though the lead acid battery in India is located right inside the house in many, many, many homes, or in fact all homes. But a lithium battery, you can't bring it in depending on the kind of chemistry it has. So different states around the world, different geographies around the world have different rulings. Some should be like 8 feet away from the outside wall, some should be on the outside wall, some can be in the garage, but not inside the house. So depending on the chemistry. So I think India needs to also think through. Reggie sits on one of the BIS committees for batteries. And I think it's a very important component that you nail that first, so that then the utilities can roll out, whether you have solar with batteries, you have home, cars. Cars are not, by the way, LFPs. Most of the cars are lithium manganese cobalt. So those kinds of issues will then automatically come to light because you now have a standard. So thank you for the insights on that. Our last presenter before the discussants is Reena Suri, Executive Director of ISGF. So Reena, the floor is yours.
Very good afternoon. I'll be talking about accelerating the retail renewable energy market in India through peer-to-peer energy trading. So the demand for digital technologies and the declining costs are driving more digitally driven solutions for the energy systems, and increasing the decentralization and consumer control. So the more consumer is getting more control with the new technologies coming in, they would also want to have a better choice of how they can transact or buy the energy, and they would demand, with all the renewable energy coming into the sector, more green energy. So going forward, how the energy sector is transforming to be able to give that kind of empowerment to the consumers. Blockchain technology, I will not go into the detail of. Now, the era has changed. People understand, how this technology supports and gives immutable, blocks and contracts to be able to transact securely. So a person demanding electricity, want to buy from the peer may get into a contract and be able to, immediately do the transaction and settle the transaction using this secure technology. And over the years, we have seen not only in India, but many countries we have seen there are a lot of use cases which are already there using blockchain technology applications for the power sector. We have, peer-to-peer energy trading is one of the use cases which is very popular. Wholesale electricity is transforming, and how the transactions are happening and settlements will happen going forward. Renewable energy certificates can be authenticated using blockchain technology, and transactions in transactive energy and grid management and multiple other use cases, including management of the DERs and electric vehicles that are coming in, how we can authenticate if a consumer demands green electricity for charging of electric vehicles, how you can certify using this kind of secure technology, and that the charging is done by green energy. So this is one of the pilots ISGF is also currently working on, that with the blockchain giving us a secure information about where the renewables coming in, and consumer getting authenticated for the charging through renewables if the consumer demands. So what is peer-to-peer energy trading? Peer-to-peer energy trading is a consumer getting into contract with their peer, neighbor, or somebody in the vicinity or even outside. That a consumer producing renewables and a consumer who wants to buy, they can get into a contract and trade electricity between them each other. And blockchain provides it provides a platform where you can get into a contract and transact, and prosumers can say that I want to sell my electrons, green electrons that I have excess, and I want to sell it to my neighbor, and the neighbor is ready to pay an extra cost for that. So it's a win-win for both a prosumer and a consumer getting into this contract, and prosumer getting demanding a little more, and the consumer paying for the amount getting into this contract. And this gives flexibility for the consumer who are looking to use green electricity, and many corporates and many such entities are there who are they are looking for green electricity for their daily usage and they have pledged that they would want to go ahead with the green electricity. So going forward, we are looking at decentralized retail renewable energy market with so much of renewables coming into the sector, and electricity P2P providing a trading platform for the electricity transactions, connecting the consumers and prosumers, and facilitating the transition to decentralized and retail and through decentralized retail renewable energy market. And this kind of market, the retail RE market incentivizes and automates the balancing of electricity supply and demand, and in close proximity by providing the price signals connected to available surplus solar energy prosumers. And this also provides an alternative for conventional net metering and gross metering subsidies, and offers higher ROI for the rooftop. So government is planning a huge uptake of rooftop, and this is something which will really encourage a consumer to put rooftop energy, rooftop solar, and get incentivized because he can sell at a higher rate. Sorry. So I talked about what is the need of retail. I won't go into detail of this, but what kind of challenges will this solve, and will a retail market solve? It will help government in phasing out subsidies. The retail market supported by this kind of peer-to-peer trading provides a market-based alternative for conventional net metering and gross metering. It also supports the acceleration, as I mentioned, of rooftop solar, reducing the grid reliance, going forward when we have so much of renewables, why not trade between each other, and it will help reduce the grid reliance, and also, when the renewables is at a high uptake. So it will help the grid also balance it better with this kind of transactions going forward, and reducing the electricity cost for the consumers buying from the prosumers using this kind of transactions, and at the end empowering the end consumers to have a choice where to buy and how much to buy the electricity, and whether it will be a green electron or the conventional energy. So the decentralized retail renewable energy market value proposition, there are multiple benefits for multiple stakeholders. The participants, they receive electricity and help. I just mentioned that the electricity costs can be reduced with this kind of electricity, access to green energy, incentives to invest in DRs, more consumers putting rooftop solar, and active participation in this kind of energy transaction. So we will have a more active consumer, and what are the benefits that the DISCOMs are going to get for this kind of transactions? They will be able to contribute to renewable energy purchase obligations with the peer-to-peer trading of renewables. The cost benefit in comparison to net metering subsidies that they have to offer, and to the consumers, insights into how consumer behavior, digitalization of energy flows, and consumer retention and acquisition. And of course, the government and regulators, they will be able to remove the costly net metering subsidies and market-based incentives. I will just jump. I don't know if my time is over or. Okay. So just quickly, would like to take you through with this background, and the whole energy transaction and the energy, the way the electrons have been flowing has transformed. So with this aim, and to showcase how peer-to-peer technology trading going forward and this kind of market will work, ISGF with this blockchain technology partner, we have undertaken 3 pilots. We started with UP as one of the states where we had demonstrated the very first pilot, and with going forward with Tata Power in Delhi and then CSE Calcutta. And our regulators have been very upfront in adoption of this technology and understand the use of peer-to-peer and this market coming up. So they have, we already have regulations in Uttar Pradesh which allowed us initially to do this pilot, and the full-fledged regulations are already rolled out to scale it up. And Delhi has recently issued the regulation to allowing the peer-to-peer trading, and KERC has also in June 2024 issued peer-to-peer approval for introduction of peer-to-peer in their power distribution sector. So just quickly talk about a toolkit to support the utilities to understand and take up this technology and and use it in their state. Has been rolled out with support from USAID under the SAREP paper. We already have a white paper which will be shared with all the participants, and also a toolkit has been created to help you understand and the nuances of the technology, as well as the help you adopt the same. So I think just one more minute, and would like to mention that So since UPRC's peer-to-peer regulations, they place the responsibility to collect the money for these kind of transactions, the whole transaction had utility playing a key role, and all the transactions were getting settled through the utility bill. The utilities were a little reluctant to take that responsibility because there would be a lot of disruption in the billing system. So, however, DISCOMs are not ready to modify the bills and accommodate the peer-to-peer trading transactions and the money through their channels. So, what ISGF is doing, we are working with FIDE, which is a not-for-profit organization, to build a digital platform above the blockchain layer, which will do the trading, but the settlement will happen through this additional layer, and all final transactions will take place on the new digital layer that we are working with FIDE on. And FIDE has developed a unified energy interface similar to UPI on a backend protocol, which is an open protocol. And this new solution, UEI, for peer-to-peer trading will be demonstrated for the first time in the world in Lucknow in early next year. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah, the key, this is very interesting, right? I mean, everybody else talked on the technical side, stability, VARs, frequency response. This is on market settlement. And in a way, it's the first that, you have to congratulate ISGF for this and UP, Electricity Board and the regulator here. Simply because nowhere in the world, I would think, has this been done before. Where an independent market is being allowed through the regulatory system, even though it's a pilot, for settlement of energy. Energy settlement generally goes through a very fixed mechanism, which part is also a part of the problem many times, because everything has to go through a particular way and then it gets billed back to the consumer. Here you are having an alternative. It's like an alternative banking, it's a fintech, if you will, to be able to settle on a retail basis on a very small amounts of power, hundreds and thousands of trades perhaps per hour. They are all very, very different transactions. So the objective here, as she pointed out, was that hopefully subsidies will not be required if enough of market pricing discovery is found. And so that is the objective in this. Hopefully the Karnataka one and then the Delhi one also will show promise that there is a market once price discovery is very well known through a platform. So thank you, Reena, for that. So this brings us to the end of our formal presentations. We are going to move to the discussants, but I have, in fact, one request from Dr. Zakir Rathir from IIT Mumbai. He's got to catch a flight, because remember, this was slated for 11:30 in the morning, and then it got moved to 2 o'clock. So I'm going to let him go first, and he's got 2 or 3 slides. He'll talk about results on this subject. And then whenever you're free, you want to leave, you can leave.
A very good afternoon to all the participants, and thank you very much for allowing me to present up in the queue. I'll briefly talk about some of the experiences from pilot demonstrations of vehicle to house, vehicle to grid that we have been working on, which is very relevant to some of the presentations that were made earlier. The broader idea, as we all know, is that we will have a lot of battery storage under the vehicles, which remains unutilized for quite a bit of percentage of the time, depending on which segment of the vehicle we are talking about. So therefore, why not use that battery for grid applications and other applications, what we call as vehicle to anything, as mentioned on this slide. So at IIT Bombay, we are involved in several pilots around vehicle to house, vehicle to grid, vehicle to building, and including public charging stations and related aspects. But today, they are at different stages of the development. Pilot 1, which I'm going to briefly talk about, is actually almost completed. So this is looking at the vehicle to house, where we are using vehicle to power back to the house and the grid depending on the demand of the vehicle. So this is rooftop PV based residential house where we did these demonstration. And these are the objectives of this particular pilot, pilot number 1. Where we looked at this peak shaving, increased PV utilization, islanded operation of the house, or emergency backup car as an emergency backup for the house, or in case of there is load shedding from the grid side, how car can power the house during those hours, and the net zero electricity exchange. So this is peak shaving. As you can see, the blue curve is the demand of the house, and then there is you can see the power pumped back by the vehicle into the house, purple color, and then you can see the negative power going back to the grid for certain hours, and they are coinciding with the morning and evening peak, which are very critical for the DISCOM and the grid operator as well. In this case, we operated the house. House for the islanded operation, where we considered that the supply of the grid DISCOM is actually out, and vehicle is taking out, if you can see, in the morning at 6:30 a.m. And powering back to the house, irrespective of the grid is there or not, demonstrating on this sample day how vehicle actually can power the house irrespective of the supply from the DISCOM side. And this is one sample day calculations for this particular pilot, what we call as vehicle to home to grid. The first bar that you can see on the right side is actually showing the number of units generated by the rooftop PV on this particular day, 9th April this year. And then next negative that you can see is the net energy actually exchanged with the grid. The house is consuming around 21 units in the day. And the last bar that is showing 5.2 units is the energy used by the vehicle to go to the office and come back. So that is the, on a typical day, the energy that it is using, the battery is 40 kilowatt hour. So if you take 80% of this SOC, usable SOC, you are using only 5 out of those 30 or so units in the battery of the car. So rest can potentially be utilized for other applications, as shown here for the vehicle and supplying back to the grid. So these are the regulations and the tariff structure that we have in the Maharashtra, where we did this pilot. And based on this, you can see this, the economic analysis. The first plot on the left side, you can see the very first bar is actually is a case where it is only rooftop PV. With rooftop PV, there is the reduction of the electricity bill on annual basis. This is the data for annual basis, around 15%. But when we are integrating it with the vehicle to house, the savings in the electricity bill over a year of the study was more than 30%, as you can see. And without any rooftop PV, with only vehicle to house, the savings were still touching around 17-18% on the annual basis. That is with the residential prices of this charging of the vehicle. On the second plot, you can see is actually on the commercial basis. If the premises is actually the commercial, then accordingly the savings are relatively high. And the third one is actually if there is a net metering, and the last one is if we are using TOD, which is applicable right now in Maharashtra. What you can see is utilizing the TOD is not actually becoming more attractive here compared to the first case where the household is using the residential tariff structure itself. So TOD, what it indicates is the TOD needs to be designed depending on what it is, aimed to actually achieve at. It needs to be very effective so that can be, adopted by the target consumers. So we also looked at how this rooftop PV was being talked about, how rooftop PV driven technical issues can also be addressed by this vehicle to grid vehicle to house. You can see here on the first top slide, over voltage in the feeder without actually with PV without any electric vehicle, and then and then you can see with the use of this vehicle to grid and vehicle to house, you can see the voltage is actually brought within the acceptable limit. So which shows that besides other application of vehicle to grid, it can potentially address several grid issues and help in better grid management in the system. And we have done one detailed study on implementation of vehicle to X in India, where we have published some reports. This study was done with CA, and it details out various case studies on different applications of vehicle to grid, vehicle to house, and vehicle to building related aspects. We're also right now currently working on vehicle to grid for bus segment, which is supported by the session partner GIZ here, where we're looking at how electric bus segment actually can actively participate in this vehicle to grid and other related applications. So that's all from my side. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. I think two very interesting takeaways here. One is, of course, that in his experiment, the house was even islanded. There was a slide. And it'll be interesting to see, whether that comes in of help whenever you have a power outage. And what do you do as a result of that? The second is a bus segment. In fact, Reji, if he was allowed to here, he will talk volumes on that. Because we believe, in fact, in many studies, we did one for Calcutta as well some years ago. Wherever you have large bus segments, where there are school buses and others like that, assets, which are sitting around during particular periods of time, they are ideal, in fact, for getting extra revenue generation by pumping back to the grid, as opposed to maybe four-wheeler cars or residential cars or even taxi. Point-to-point taxis, yes, perhaps, maybe. But otherwise, these point-to-point vehicles like school buses are ideal for these kinds of things. So thank you, Professor, for your insights. We now move on, in fact, back into the list now. So Professor Rathar, whenever you want to leave, you can leave, depending on your schedule. So now we move back to our schedule here is to Samuel Paul, MD of KESCO UP. The floor is yours.
Respected dignitaries on the dais and in the hall, over the past 2 days, we have delved very detailed into this topic. And we have heard the other MDs from UP also speak on the DISCOM challenges and various new technologies that has been brought in the sector. And this is a very fast-growing sector, and initially the DISCOMs were not part of the initiative, but according to the policy decision, the DISCOMs have a very big role to play in the solar rooftop implementation. The solar rooftop implementation, just to give a brief idea of my DISCOM perspective, I will just take 3-4 minutes of your time. We have a consumer base of 7,50,000, out of which the target given to us as a DISCOM is 1,50,000. Around 20% of our consumers have to be covered through the solar PV. If you see the categorization of consumers, among the 2 kilowatt to 3 kilowatt consumers, we have a lot of scope, and also above 3 kilowatts. I think the 1 kilowatt category, which is the lifeline consumers, the 1 kilowatt forms the major proportion of the DISCOM consumer category. So I think we have to give a lot of push on this particular area. And especially when we talk to the vendors per se, we always work along with the New and Renewable Energy Agency, which is NEDA, whose director is seated on the dais. So we always take input from them. And this is particularly a very new field for all the field employees, for field staff who are actively involved in implementation along with the vendors. And also we have a major role in billing, which is the net metering of the consumers every month. So we have we had a lot of sessions with the vendors, also with other stakeholders before starting the implementation of the program. The program is at a very primary stage of implementation, but still as a DISCOM, as an urban DISCOM and government DISCOM in UP, which is of a very small size, we do have the luxury of taking some pilot projects and executing upfront so that our next 30 years or so, which will be a very beautiful journey with the renewable energy, we will be in a better position to handle the challenges. So some of the challenges as a DISCOM we face is, for a DISCOM, the most important duty is to supply 24/7 power supply to all the consumers of the DISCOM. So we concentrate in making our infrastructure more stronger and reliable all the time to the consumers. In an urban DISCOM, we expect 24/7 power supply, as a result of which we in UP, presently we are concentrating more in protecting our infrastructure, especially under the visionary leadership of a chairman. We are working more on DT protections and power transformer protections, and when, as Director Neda was telling, as of now at the initial stage that wouldn't be a problem, but when the load of a distribution transformers from the renewable energy extends to 30% or 35%, there will be a lot of harmonic issues which we'll have to face. The islanding has to be taken care of. The previous speaker also talked about highlanding. When we talk to our field employees who are our linemen and who are at the cutting edge of executing ensuring the supply as well as executing this project, we get to hear from them that there is a lot of back current or jerks which they face even after taking shutdowns. So this has to be taken care of because safety is of paramount importance for any organization, and we have to protect our employees above everything. So this islanding has to be ensured at the source of the renewable energy, as well as in order to protect our devices. Generally in the DISCOMs we use, on the LT set of the transformer we use ACBs or MCCBs. Now under the RDSS schemes also we have taken a lot of projects related to these new infrastructure. But maybe I think even on the HT side, ACBs has to be deployed in order to manage the jerks from the harmonics that will be generated. So that is of critical concern. As on today, our DT damage rates is about 4%. But when we see the presentations from other DISCOMs, we have a lot to learn. Their DT damage rates are even less than 0.7%. So we have a long way to travel ahead in UP. But we are on the right track under the right leadership as on date. And also we need to convince our employees that this is the program of the government of India and the DISCOM has the mandate. So a lot of training and orientation is required, and which we are doing. And also we are trying to coordinate with all the vendors so that the scheme targets are given in a monthly basis to all, and achievement also comes in early. And especially I want to tell the cost reflective tariffs will help in the survival of the DISCOMs, because renewable energy is a win-win situation, but still DISCOMs has to face the initial beating till the concept seeps in. As far as the green power tariffs are concerned, always the generation companies are in positive. Since it is a renewable purchase obligation, I feel whatever burden is on the DISCOM has to be shared with the GENCOs also, so that the DISCOM can survive this big transition. And also, in one of the sessions, they raised a concern that in UP, LT connections are given only up to 50 kilowatt. However, the proposal has been sent to the regulator, and possibly, I think, up till 150 kilowatt for EVs also, we will be able to give the connections very soon from the LTE side of the network only. In KESCO, we are doing a new thing. Whenever there is a transition and there is a revolution happening, there has to be some internal changes that needs to be made to the organization. We have an age-old tradition of geographical functioning in the DISCOM, and an organizational setup in which we have the chief engineers, the superintending engineers, the executive engineers working at the circle, division and subdivision level. However, we have thought of in KESCO that a few urban centers were selected, among which Kanpur also was one of the urban centers. We are doing an organizational rejig. Initially, we thought that we should have a functional setup of hierarchy. So in Kanpur, we are trying to implement a setup in which there will be technical officers, commercial officers, testing officers, and project officers, so that the accountability is unique. Even for a renewable energy, the general concept in government is whenever the new scheme comes, there will be a nodal officer made, and he will be a nodal officer for many subjects. So in the new setup, we are trying to give the specialized importance to renewable energy and also energy accounting, in which all the public DISCOMs do lag. But these days, a lot of impetus is being given by UPPCL as well as the management for ensuring transparent energy accounting, as well as the renewable energy has to be given its due importance. So we have a vertical separately for the renewable energy, sub-vertical, and a separate officer is being dedicated for this purpose. I feel there is a huge ground to learn for us, and this is these sessions are a real eye-opener for us. And also, a lot of times, we DISCOMs get a lot of data. Whatever technology is being used, we do have data, but we don't have the in-house capacity to work on those data. Maybe the artificial intelligence and machine learning, which is coming up in a very big way, can help us do it. And I think a lot of inputs we got from the sessions. I really thank ISGF as well as the other partners for giving us a wonderful opportunity to learn from you all. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. 3 takeaways, in fact. One is a 4% forced outage rate is excessive. Generally, even as it hits 1%, in fact, a project is initiated as to why we are hitting 1%. Is it, is it because of age? Is it because of lack of maintenance or whatever? So DTs generally never get maintained. They're all run to fail. So a 4% is definitely high. 0.7% perhaps should be the norm. So that's one. Number 2, harmonics, he brought it up. In fact, in many, many jurisdictions, this is not even considered. But I can tell you, it can either help you by attenuating or it can amplify. I've seen that also. A 5% target harmonics to the spec actually has become 27% because it has actually got amplified when you connect it with a few more nonlinear devices. So something very crucial to think about as you put more and more of these inverters. And the third thing would be with respect to the system that you, in the end, you put up. The more inverters you have to worry about whether any one of them is backfeeding. So in fact, in the last round, I don't know which standard of IEEE, there is a red switch that is installed, in fact, in front of the house. When the electrician of the utility comes to that house, he is able to just isolate and get himself that isolation. It's a proof of isolation. So we do not rely on the breaker or the MCCB of the inverter to do things. We actually provide a physical isolation to the electrician. So those are 3 takeaways. Thank you very much for that. Our next discussant here is Mr. R.J. Wala, CE Distribution, PGVCL, Gujarat.
$10 million rooftops. Looks like a big number, but actually it is a small number. If we calculate the potential of the rooftops, it is a very small number. Per se, if I say for the Gujarat, we have 1.5 crore of residential consumers. And if I divide it by 2, it comes 75,000. If I eliminate the apartments and small houses, still 50,000. So to achieve this target, we have internally make our target of 25 lakhs. And today we have registered 12 lakhs of applications under this PM Surya Ghar Muft Bijli Yojana. And out of that, 2.17 lakhs rooftops have already been installed under this particular scheme, having capacity of 800 megawatt. But cumulatively, we have installed 4.5 gigawatt of rooftops so far. And the numbers are above 8 lakhs of residential consumers. So this is not, a big number, 10 millions. But before we come out with the challenges, I would like to put some lights in our journey, how we achieve this. So we started installing rooftops in 2014. We installed few rooftops on engineering colleges. And then after we studied it, carried out technical studies, net metering studies, gross machine studying. Then after, slowly, MNRE's phase 1 comes, in which the nodal agency was JEDA, the state nodal agency. and they have installed 200 megawatt in residential sector and 200 in other than residential, so 400 megawatt. But our state government has emphasized on the installing 8 lakh rooftop at that time. So in 2018, they have transferred the ownership from this JEDA to DISCOMs, because without DISCOMs involvement, DISCOMs ownership, these numbers cannot be achieved. So since 2018 to 2014, we have installed 4,000 of megawatt capacity of rooftops. So initially, before this PM Surya Ghar Yojana, there was MNRE's phase 2 program, in which we can install rooftop through tenderizing process. So we carried out the first 600 megawatt tender successfully. Year by year, we carried another tender 600 megawatt, then 1,000 megawatt, and at that time we segregated the rural and urban tenders, because largely this capacity comes in the urban area only. So we also targeted to penetrate this rooftop in the rural area. So at that time, the rural penetration was only 20%. Now at present, it is more than 30%. So after that, this PM Surya Ghar Yojana comes. The success of Gujarat actually depends on 4 pillars. First, you have to have large number of vendor base. Initially, when we started, somebody criticized us that you have apne ek dukaan khol rakhi, itne sare vendors. But now they realize the capacity of the vendors. The small EPC vendor can only install the rooftops, because the rooftop capacity is only 1 kilowatt, 2 kilowatt, 3 kilowatt. These are not megawatt scale rooftops. So you have to have large numbers of vendors. So initially we had 200 numbers of vendors. Then year by year we did these vendor development programs, encouraging the new entrepreneurs. And today we have a large vendor base of more than 1,200 vendors. And also my subdivision office, division office are doing every month vendor development program. They are approaching these ITIs, polytechnics, diploma college. So new engineers who are actually unemployed, we are involving them into becoming a new entrepreneurs. So vendor development is a very crucial. Our target to have at least 5,000 vendors. Second is consumer. Without consumer participation, you cannot achieve this. So you have numbers of IC activities out these programs. So all the programs we have carried out, like print and electronic medias, door-to-door campaigns, but the effective one is SMS. We fired 2 crore SMS directly, and we provided a link. And also we provide a, if you want rooftop, just dial a missed call, we will provide a rooftop. So based on missed call, we achieve this success. And one cheapest solution is the flex banner. So thousands of flex banners have been installed on the each and every villages, at Jan Seva Kendra, at Gram Sabha, Gram Panchayat. So we carried out a lot of IC activities. FM radio is also very effective. At the time of COVID, actually we did not carry out the door-to-door campaign, but this outreach program to FM is very effective. The third one is portal. We have in Gujarat, India's first fully digitized end-to-end solution portal. I mean, thanks to GIZ, Kuldeep, because their support, we developed this fully digitized portal. Right from application to subsidy, inspection, quality check, everything is in portal. Today, there are some issues in our national portals, but we are also able to solve it. Because manually, we cannot handle this kind of flow of applications. And the fourth one is subsidy. If you not give subsidy in time to vendors, vendor will not install the next lot of rooftops. Because the EPC vendor have some liquidity limits, if the liquidity is consumed, you have to have a new liquidity available for the vendors. So Gujarat DISCOM are A+ rating DISCOMs, so we provided their subsidy for our fund only. We don't wait for the MNRE subsidy to come. Even state government given us the corpus fund of 800 crore rupees. So subsidy we made it within 1 month of installations. We also provided the net meter by purchasing at DISCOM level only. We We are also not asked the vendors to provide the net meter. Because if DISCOM purchase the net meters, the rate is very, cost-effective rates. And the fifth one is capacity building program. Because there are lots of some myths or fully questions are coming that if we install rooftops, then our revenue will goes out and some voltage problem will occur. So we have carried out capacity building program with the help of GIZ and Germany, and our more than 500 engineers have been trained, and now there is no any need of training. Our USP, the USP behind this success is, there are 4 or 5 factors. First one is no capacity restriction. Irrespective of contracted load, the consumer can install any capacity of rooftop. Let's say if you have 1 kilowatt of contracted load, you can install 500 kilowatt. So this is the USP of Gujarat. There is no restriction. We are not asking to pay any security deposit, any fixed cost for taking a rooftop. Second, banking. Banking, we provide banking for the billing cycle. Billing cycle generally is bi-monthly, 2 months. So we not charge any banking charges for this particular billing cycle. Then net meter, as I said, we provided the net meter, and we calculated the net metering at the end of billing cycle, and purchase of the surplus power. We are purchasing the surplus power at the rate of 2.25 rupees per units for the first 5 years. So if the consumers have installed, let's say 10 kilowatt of system and their load is only 2-3 kilowatt, they can sell the electricity to DISCOMs. And actually, there is one myth that the DISCOMs revenue is affected because of rooftop, but it is on the contrary, the other side. Actually, we have met our peak demand during the summer time due to this installation of rooftop. We buy this cheap energy at the 2 rupees instead of buying from the exchange at the rate of 10 rupees. So that's why our installed capacity is 4.5 gigawatt. Now coming to some RE integration challenges. In Baroda city or Rajkot city, the rooftop penetration is very, very high. So actually our 11 kV feeders have some relays, safety relays, which working on the principle of broken conductor. If let's say conductor is snapped and not touched to the ground, the feeder will remain live. So in order to avoid this situation, we have installed the broken conductor relay. It senses the difference of load. Now this phenomena is occurring in the solar side. Why? Because at the morning 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, our load is generally goes down and solar is picking up. So at 12 in the noon and up to the 12 p.m., the feeder's load is almost negligible, but the solar generation is very high. So this feeder senses that there is some issues, so is trip the relays. So we are also working on to avoid this kind of features. Then
you have to close, please. Your time is up. Please close.
Okay. Then this voltage issues. Because of high penetration of rooftops, the voltage is a local phenomena, and at some point of time, these inverters are not able to synchronize. So at that time, we lose this generation. And we also ask this ISGF and other in the Powerthon to work on these smart inverters, to synchronize this voltage during the high voltage. And also, we are with the ISGF for the national registry development to forecast, because our this rooftop is now coming to 10% of our total demand. So the forecast is very necessary. So national registries also will help in this. And there are lots of benefit, like as earlier speaker said, the reduction in latency losses, and also the power purchase cost reduction. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, in fact, one of the key takeaways in this was, if you put solar in every residence on a particular line, after the 10th or the 11th, the voltage will go so high that it'll trip on 10% over voltage. So the key to that is to put a smart inverter, and the smart inverter will adjust VARs to keep the various voltages so that you don't get into this effect. But we have seen this in many, many places. You put a normal unity power factor inverter, and then the 10th or the 11th house will invariably trip on over voltage when there is less load, So thank you for that. Our next speaker is Shivaram Bikina of Tata Power Company. And remember, you all have 5 minutes, please. So keep
Sure.
to the time limit.
Thank you. Very good afternoon to everyone, and thanks for having me here as part of this panel. So I have this unique opportunity of being in Tata Power and getting a perspective, because on one side we are a distribution company, and on the other side we are the #1 rooftop solution provider in the country. So I'll bring forward certain perspectives which at this point might look contrary. So to begin with, how big is the problem that we are talking about? The size of residential rooftop, for example. In 2023, approximately 1.7 lakh installations have happened. This year, 2024, that's going to increase to approximately 7.5 lakhs. And next year, it's going to be 25 lakhs, for sure. And we are seeing it on the ground. What this looks like is suddenly it's expanding and increasing. And if you convert that into the load and see what percentage of the load, or what percentage of the residential rooftops is this? It is hardly 0.6% of Indian households that we have covered so far, which means in spite of this increase, there is a massive potential to increase the rooftops in India. And as a perspective, Australia has 33% of their rooftops covered through solar plants. So if a country like Australia could work on the grid stability and solutions around with 33%, we at 0.6%, even if it were to grow to 4-5% in the next few years, I think this certainly is not a problem. I think we should look at this as a massive opportunity. We are at a stage in India where we should drive, all the stakeholders in this room and outside, we should drive enhancement of rooftop solutions across the country. Having said that, how big is this in terms of load? At the all India level, if we were to look at, convert this installation so far, about 15 lakhs by the end of this year, approximate numbers, would convert not more than about 0.2%. And why is it so? Our estimates say that 20% of the installed load generation would only move to grid, 80% gets consumed. So when you convert that into actual load, as of today is just 0.2% of the installed load across the country. Of course, there could be variations in different parts of the country. And hence, once again, it clearly shows that this is not a problem of today. Having said that, we should look at it as a preparation for the future. And the future could be 5 years, 10 years down the line. It gives us enough time for us to plan. So quickly, I have 5 solutions which can help us in grid stability, assuming that the increase in rooftop goes through the roof in the next 4-5 years. Very simple solutions which are implemented across the world, and technology is not a constraint for this. To list number 1 is DSM, demand side management, and which is to begin with, we need to have a smart planning of TOD tariffs to ensure that discretionary loads used in the houses, could be washing machines, dishwashers, can be planned as per the timelines, as per the TODs. So this is something which is a smart system that is used across the world, and which is something which we need to do. And for this, we should have a system which is unique and simple and usable across the country. It cannot have across different states. Having said that, there is a second opportunity within the residential household itself, which is a battery. Excess generation used during non-peak hours. Hybrid solution is something which we don't actually use properly. That is another big opportunity that we need to encash and start preparing for. Hybrid battery solutions with prices coming down drastically of battery, that's another big opportunity for us to integrate into. Today, hybrid is actually thought of only where intermittent or power issues are there. But that should change into planning proactively for time of the day solutions, wherein people can use their loads in non-peak hours or non-solar hours. So that's the way we can utilize the load distribution as well. Now, once we move out of the household, outside the house, the third solution is in terms of how do we get excess generation within some households shared by the other households, the peer-to-peer, or to give a very specific example, there is only so much utilization within associations, high-rises, because the rooftops can only take care of the common facility requirements. How can the excess generation in individual households can be shared by high-rise residents? So that's one big opportunity that can be utilized so that the power generation in a certain area can be used in a certain area and need not be going out. So the fourth opportunity which is there is community scale batteries. That's something, again, we are far away from exploring. This could be a solution which is 4, 5, 6 years down the line, but it is similar to what we do within a household can be extended to a community scale, and a community, when I mean that, is within a similar geographical extent. That is another very big opportunity which can be taken. And again, prices are much accessible even today with the price of batteries coming down. Very, very accessible solutions can be provided to the consumers. And the fifth and the last one which I have is something maybe 8 to 10 years down the line, not today, something which is called solar switch-off rules, which is used in some of the countries where the penetration of rooftop has gone beyond 20%. These are the countries which have started using through common agencies, wherein if there is an excess generation, can take control of household inverters and switch them off for a certain period of time. And certainly this period of time is only for a few hours and not long hours. A combination of all these solutions, if we can prioritize into these 5 practical, executed in different parts of the country, we just need to bring them to us. It gives us an opportunity to not just scale up rooftops across the country, but also manage them very, very well. So to end, I would like to just say that now is the time to expand and embrace this rooftop opportunity across the country. We are way, way low. We are below 1% penetration. We need to take this up to 20%. As we do that, we have enough time to plan with various suggestions which are made and other suggestions which are there from the panel members here to actually have a very, very solid planning so that in India we can have a very good penetration, at the same time a very good management of the grid. Thank you.
Thank you, Shivaram. Yeah, there were 2 takeaways in this, and one is the projection into what Australia did. It took quite some effort, some missteps which they had to correct, but they have largely been able to prove, in fact, and there's an area of parts of Australia which is almost independent of the grid. And it's working with fair good stability as well. So in some ways, Australia now seems to be leading in the solar PV high penetration area, something that India can either understand what they've done or then adapt it to what India needs. So thank you for that. Our next speaker is Mr. Shri B.B. Mehta, Director of SLDC Odisha.
Good afternoon. Thanks ISGF for giving me an opportunity. In fact, cricket match, my 10th, 11th player has no more role to play. And ground has been cleared by my preceders. Lot of things has been told as far as development of rooftop, certain percent to be taken. Just I will clarify certain things that the inverter in the rooftop solar or is a line frequency inverter. So if there is no power in the network, it is 100% safe. So there is no need to worry about the person operating at the transformer or at the line. He is not going to get anything from this set. That is very clear. 1 crore, it's a very ambitious thing. We will achieve it. But I am from the grid management. Stability is our concern. So all we know that this is high level of electronics where inverters are there. SMPS are deployed. It generates the ripples, harmonics. Way back to 2019, CA come forward with standards for the harmonics, ripples, flickers. Even there is a standards for the fault write-through capability, high voltage write-through capability, low voltage write-through capability. That is to be adhered to. Unfortunately, what is happening across the country, including our state also, just to commission something, we believe, and we need to believe also, that we don't have facility to test it. So whatever OEM gives, we just accept it. But it is a time we need to take a call. We need to develop the agency's test facility setup on a private level with reasonable fees. That periodic check all these devices necessary. The inverter working today may not give the same quality of the power at the end of the 2 or 3 years by the time. So this is a need of time. Otherwise, when it's accumulated and the sigma becomes quite large, the quality of power is likely to be deteriorated. We have a good rotating machines. You know, this power does not have an inertia. This is one more concern with respect to stability of the system or with respect to grid operation. So having the large scale of the inverter-based solar power with us, we need to build up the equal level of the inertia. So probably in case of storage, why we talk of the pump storage plant? Unfortunately, I failed to get one word about PSP today throughout the day. I'm attending since morning. But this is the large-scale storage device with a life cycle of 30-35 years plus. Battery has a life cycle less than 5 years. Battery is never on a gigawatt scale. Ample opportunity lies with the India as far as pump storage projects are concerned. And what is the intermittency of the renewable? Sir, when we talk of 100 gigawatt renewable by 2030, it is 100% expected that there will be intermittency of 100 gigawatt. Is it possible to meet or cope up that thing with respect to battery? Probably the answer is no. So it is high time that one has to clear up his box and go back to the reliable, solid, concrete, technically supported to the grid management, stability supported pump storage projects. So this is apart from something different. So point is that electronics of the electrons of the inverters as well as the EV has to be very thoroughly designed, checked, and we have to lay down the norms and standards. Sir is talking about the Australia, but there is very strict standards for the commissioning of all these things. And very specified brands, make and things are models have been certified by the national central agency. That only can be deployed by the vendor. Not anybody assemble XYZ room. So these are the things we need to take care of this with respect to quality of the power, maintaining the grid standard and stability if we go a large scale PV solar based system. Thank you.
Thank you. One key takeaway was the quality of the electrician who services or installs your inverter. In fact, in many, many countries, the OEM will have a set of people who are called certified installers, who have gone through a certification and a kind of a training program with the OEM. They alone are allowed to install, as opposed to a third-party electrician that you can hire from the street. So a very good point, sir. Thank you very much. Our next discussant is going to be Dhananjay Ondekar, and he has got a video to share, but a quick one, I hope.
Good afternoon. Thanks ISGF for giving an opportunity to present the Maharashtra State Electricity Board PM Suryaghar progress. I will not take much time because whatever the progress of Maharashtra, I have captured in a small video that I will show you. Before that, we heard the two success stories of Uttar Pradesh, Mr. Shukla sir, and Gujarat success story. I think ours is the third success story because Maharashtra stood second in India as far as PM Suryaghar is concerned. Also, Maharashtra installed capacity for rooftop solar is 2.5 gigawatt. The vendor, we have already registered near about 2,000. So it is, I think, first in India as far as vendors development is concerned. Beside this, a very proud moment for Maharashtra is we have taken a mission of Sauragram Yojana, that is electrification of 100 villages up to March 25. Up till now, we have succeeded in installing 2 villages of Sauragram, that is 100% solarization with the help of PM Suryaghar, not by other method, by captive solar or all these things. And by this month end, we could succeed in installing 17 another villages by the end of this November. So definitely Maharashtra will progress by 100 villages up to March 25. So I will not discuss in detail what measures we have taken, but one measure I have to mention here, that is paperless and faceless procedure for PM rooftop solar. Because earlier presentation, one speaker said that bureaucratic hurdles and the DISCOM officials' resistance is the main challenges for the PM Suryaghar Yojana. So we have studied that phenomena and come to conclusion that I want to show in this video. So I will request to show the video.
Is on a mission to install 20 lakh rooftop solar installations under the PM Suryaghar Muft Bijli Yojana in Maharashtra. With this ambitious goal in sight, we have simplified and digitized all its processes, making it faster and easier than ever for consumers to get solarized. Let us walk through the paperless and faceless platform developed and implemented by MSEDCL. Consumer makes online application on a national portal, pmsuryaghar.gov.in. All the empaneled vendors of Maharashtra can be accessed by the consumer online for vendor selection. Upon selection of successful vendor, the selected vendor approaches the consumer for installation of the rooftop solar system. Once the installation is completed, vendor uploads the required documents for the consumers. We have brought down documents required to be uploaded from 16 to minimal 6. Our authorized verifying officer verifies the documents uploaded by vendors within 48 hours. If any discrepancy is found, the same is informed to the vendor through email and SMS alert for the further corrections and resubmission. After successful verification of documents, the approving officer rechecks the documents and approves the same for generation of release order within 24 hours. Deemed approval has been introduced beyond stipulated timelines. Once the release order is generated, an alert is triggered to the section officer, consumer, vendor and advanced metering infrastructure provider, AMISP, coordinates with the section officers for grid connectivity of rooftop solar plants and commission rooftop solar plant within stipulated time period. Vendors coordinates with the section officers and arrange the generation meter on behalf of the consumer for grid connectivity of rooftop plants installed at consumer premises. Section officer collects net metering agreement bond from the consumer at the time of commissioning of the rooftop solar installation. Bulk testing facility has been provided for the vendors for generation meters. To bring solar power to every corner of Maharashtra, 100 villages are selected for 100% solarization. Manyachiwadi and Takewadi are now officially solar villages, and many more are in process for declaration soon. MSEDCL is hosting regular camps with bank representatives to highlight the financial benefits of rooftop solar. National banks offer rooftop solar loans at interest rates as low as 7% per annum. Under capacity building program, more than 3,000 linemen Surya Mitras trained in various training institutes. Over 60,000 rooftop solar installations have been completed so far, adding more than 235 megawatt solar capacity. The paperless and faceless facility will certainly help MSEDCL to gain momentum in accelerating the solar rooftop mission.
Thank you.
The key takeaway in this is the efficiency of the end-to-end process, which is completely digitized And even though there are human interventions to check that the documentations are correct, but it's a tremendous, tremendous saving as opposed to submitting paper and then trying to get all that verified. So thank you very much for that. I see, Eckhard, your name is double, so I'm now going to give you a second chance here on the discussant side. So our next speaker is Mr. S.K. Senapati of L&T.
Good afternoon. First of all, thank you ISGF for this opportunity. So I've seen a lot of presentation and EV, rooftop. So I'll not be going to the something like, okay, we are generating rooftop, we are generating solar, we are integrating EV. So I'll be talking a bit of grid side. So sometimes we are forgetting, okay, the power has to go or power has to be drawn. Then grid has to be stable. So that is important. So I'll be touch upon grid stability part, maybe 2-3 points. So here, actually, earlier you have thermal, hydro. So there's a lot of inertia is being fed to the grid. But here, with inverters, that is lacking. So we need to have a proper, we need to give inertia to the grid. That is one part. And so what we need to do first? First, most important thing is that we have to have a, we need to focus on the study, the system study, the grid compliance study. So which I want to highlight. So for the planning purpose, and going forward for the operational purpose. Today, when you are putting the rooftops, today we are putting the EVs, the grid scenario may be different. So we need to focus on the planning part, simulation part, the operation part. So various scenarios, how it will behave. So that I think one of the aspects. Then coming to this, anyway, these are all intermittent power, and we need to have some sort of base and base applications, so that apart from peak load management, it will take care of the, you can say, renewable smoothening or grid smoothening. So I think that is one of the important aspect for this grid stability. Then coming to various control equipments like power plant controller, when 3 years back CA introduced that. So it discharges the power smoothly to the grid as per the grid code requirement and managing the ramp rates and as per the requirement of the SLDCs or RLDCs. I think that is very important, so that all of a sudden there is not too much variation, but variation is within the limits. So this is one aspect as far as all renewables are concerned. As far as EV is concerned, we always say, okay, all of a sudden chargings are happening and there is a load on the grid. So some of the projects we have implemented in some of the CPOs in USA, where we have a whole ecosystem of the EV. It means, say, you have a solar, you have a storage, you have connected to grid, and it is feeding to your EV charging stations. So any point of time, it is running on renewable, then backed by storage, and sometime it is depending on the grid. And really grid, it is not loading that to the grid. So that aspect you can take care while designing the EV, so that you are not really augmenting any capex and on the grid and making the grid stable. And I think most of the panelists have spoken on the one important point to B2G. Definitely the peak load management it can do, and it can support. And B2H, I can say that is a good area where there is a bush fire and the disconnection. You can still and there is a some sort of disaster, you can manage feeding to your homes and still making your grid stable. So I think these are the points I thought I'll share, and thank you for listening to me.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I think as one of the spokesperson for an EPC company, a reputed EPC company here, he has brought about certain attributes of what to look out for when you start installing the system or maybe even designing the system. So we heard the distribution utility perspective, then we heard the OEM perspective, and now the EPC contractor perspective. There are two of them here in Tata's and L&T as well. So and I think we need to sit down and take cognizance of each one of the three elements to see what would be appropriate for your particular state. So thank you very much. This brings us to the very end, and more or less the plane is landing on time. So Reggie, I think I'm doing well with you. What I'm going to do is, before I close, if there are any burning questions, we'll take one or two questions. It's a very difficult subject, let me tell you. This sounds very, very easy, put 3 kilowatt, put 5 kilowatt rooftops. When you string it together and you don't plan well, you can have sleepless nights. I can tell you this right now. Okay, Narang Sahib, you go first and then. So introduce yourself and direct your question to whoever it is here.
So I think it's open to anybody who can answer, because this is a problem I think we have been, I remember in 2012, Reggie, Rahul, we had a workshop in Chennai on this very topic, solar, rooftop solar, and that's when what we learned, there were some gap areas which had to be addressed if we really want har chat pe agar hame solar panel chahiye to. The issue is, most of the solar inverter, which are basically in India so far have been offline, which have been selling for last 10, 15 years and all that. And they're all fixed frequency. Now, if you want to supply the solar energy to the grid also, because if I'm having a solar panel, I have my battery also. I leave at 9 o'clock. By 12 o'clock, my battery is fully charged. The rest of the day, where does the solar energy go? It should be fed back to the grid. And for that, we needed grid sync in the inverter, which normally in the string inverter, it is there. But in the offline, in the domestic inverter, it is normally not there. Second thing is, now we need this grid sync. And other thing that we need is isolation control from the utility side. Because I think it was mentioned yesterday also by someone that some lineman is working and there's a power cut comes up. So in this case, even if the utility guy has switched off the line, but my batteries are fully charged all of a sudden, and it starts feeding to the grid and the lineman gets this thing. So I think we need some kind of a holistic smart inverter standard for this to actually proliferate it. Or do we already have this feature in all those which are being deployed now?
Reggie is itching to answer that question.
So he's the right guy to answer.
No, thank you for reminding about the 2012 workshop in Chennai. As a result of that, Andhra Pradesh and Tamil Nadu, two states issued net metering policy, and within 3 years, almost all states issued net metering policy. That was a big achievement of that. And smart inverter standard already adopted by IEEE 1547 2018 standard. BIS has already approved and adopted, and it has not come on their website yet, which they promise every month they will do it. We hope this month it will come on their website. No changes, it's exactly 1547 2018. So we will be doing, in collaboration with IEEE, in BRPL we'll be doing a demonstration installation of a smart inverter in one of their substations of BRPL, and all functionalities will be tested. This is in collaboration with CEA. And CEA and MNRE, we have been consistently asking all new connection. After this standard is adopted, CEA should write to all the utilities, all DER connection will be through smart inverters. So this is something, but the question will come, like Mr. Wala has already 2-3 lakhs of inverters. Suppose those are all made smart, what platform we will manage? That is going to be a bigger challenge, but at least let us do that. One of the bigger problem which we have been arguing is most of the people, those who have solar rooftop, they monitor it on an app. on their mobile phone. That goes to China and then comes back. So 95% of the inverters sold here are Chinese inverters, and everybody is monitoring their generation, and it goes to a Chinese server and comes back. So we have been telling MNRE to make it mandatory. There will be only one app for all rooftop solar connections. DISCOM should insist that India-made app. We are happy to do one by ISGF for free. So that should be made mandatory. It's a major challenge. If they can monitor, they can disconnect also.
Sir, only I repeat what I said, that these are the line frequency inverters. Even 5 megawatt ground mounted solar PV plant does not generate power if there is no grid. So it is safe. It is never sends the power to the grid if grid is off. Even a 3 kilowatt domestic rooftop solar will never send the power if the switch is, if the distribution transformer is taken outage for maintenance, or the section of the line segment is taken outage for the maintenance. So that's why these are not used for the black start procedure. It has a disadvantage also, but we never anticipate them to work in a black start. Wala sir, you can add something.
So, you want, okay, quick.
Hello. Actually, all the grid-tied inverters have inbuilt anti-island mode facilities. So when there is a power off condition, the inverter generation is still there. So inverter will try to disturb the grid, but the grid inertia is so much high, it's not able to disturb the grid, and that's why it automatically shut down. So there is an inbuilt facility in the all grid-tied inverter. There are two types of inverters. One is off-grid. It is working on the solar pump-based like VFD drive, and another is grid type, working on 50 hertz frequency level. So there is, I mean, safety point of view, we have installed 8 lakhs inverters, all small capacity. Still, there no any such kind of events occurs.
One thing I'll add is, again, the way the grid codes evolved, right? Originally, we want to test the technology. That's what the 1547/2003 is all about. Can we connect to the grid and make sure it is safer when we are connecting to the grid? And that's why we said if there is a grid event whatsoever, even the power outage, this should be disconnected so that lineman getting on the grid can take care of it without any issue, because it's not even worth to really control that in this bigger scheme of things. Then we said there are a lot more proliferation of inverters. These can actually benefit the grid a lot better. You know, disconnecting them will not really help grid. I mean, that's your point, right? And that's where Reggie was talking about the 2018 version of 1547, really saying that they should be still connected. They should be riding through the faults. At the same time, they should also be able to provide voltage and frequency support. And I think that's what we're getting to. I mean, we need to really demonstrate that with a few pilots and utilities and see how it goes. Obviously, there are other issues, safety concerns, but I think we have a way to take care of it. Inverters are capable. It's not about capability of the inverters. They can do that. But I think there is a lot we need to go through before we do that, because our normal legacy way of operations probably will not work with what inverters can do and how we can get to it. I also want to mention where we are heading. I mean, that's what I think I mentioned earlier. Even this is not done within US. We are actually trying this. Grid forming inverters. I mean, that's where island the parts of the grids when a big event happens, you know, like a cyclone hitting the system, but there can be islands that can be made with these inverters, with grid forming inverters. I think that's the next generation. But again, we need to make sure we also take care of safety and protection concerns of the system as we do that. And that's one thing I want to note for sure.
Thank you. We will be adopting IEEE 2800 grid forming inverter standard. Committee already started working on that.
Yep.
Okay, I've got 3, 4, but then Reggie will give me dirty looks. We need to, yeah, Rahul maybe, I mean, you had your hand up. Do you want to? Okay, go ahead. I think the other two, please. We'll have to, sorry about that.
We can certainly do it offline.
As a partner in crime with Reggie in the 2012 workshop, I think now the time has come that people have said, is net metering the right solution? So the policy side, not a technical. But the question to the panel here, anyone, is that inherently then saying we need a net capable of net metering meter, but we also need a gross meter because that is when you actually know what is the actual solar generation, and the variance in PLF in India is a very big deal, whether it's pollution, climatic, and other factors. Right now, this is a black box to most people. What is the PLF of a rooftop solar installation? Because of vendor variance and so many other factors. Is that something we should also encourage?
Actually, our rooftop connection has a generation meter. This is a gross meter, you can say.
Gross as well as net.
So
2 meters.
2 meters. We in Gujarat, we have 2 meters. One is net
Not in
meter.
every state. That's not
Maybe,
in every state.
But we have 8 lakhs of 2 meters, generation meter and net meter. So generation meter measures the
gross.
generation.
So
you
you
can
get your
identify the CUF.
Yeah, I agree. So most of the places around, maybe in others that you haven't seen, you always make 2 meters, right?
I know
One
that,
meter,
but
so.
it's not the rule.
Right.
And in India, there are states that don't do that.
Okay.
And even the consumer gets this data in his monthly billing cycle. What was the gross generation? What is his consumption? What is the set-off given? What is the balance credited?
I mean, on the regulatory side, I just want to add, you actually bring up a very good point. I mean, we have seen in US, right, as people start PV on the system, net metering is the one
Driver.
that they started it.
Yeah.
The reason is, it kind of incentivizes consumer right away. But again, it's not incentivizing them with the gross price. It's actually incentivizing them with the retail price, which is actually anti-utility. If you really look at it, and now we are trying to get to the next level of it. That's what the NEM 2.0 is really looking at. Is that the right way to do it? Can we say, no, I think there is a midpoint between gross billing and net billing that they can really look into and see where to get it. But I mean, this is where transition happens, right? I mean, when you see a new technology coming in, the first one is to incentivize it so that it's pro, and then you really look at what is the right way to settle down. That's where the stability happens.
And regardless of this, in fact, the net metering, in fact, is being discontinued in several advanced states around the world. They just find it a big bother, and they are charging $10 for every PV connection in every house to disincentivize so that you don't put a solar panel that's very big. So the load displacement concept of 30 or 25 years has been totally taken over by the fact that people can put 15, 20 kilowatt systems in their rooftops and therefore be able to put surplus power out into the grid. So anyway, it's coming full circle there. Thank you. So before Bala closes, I have in fact one closing argument on this. And I've written about this. Within India, you have to think this carefully. Every one of the studies that I have been sort of seeing, the space in the Barsati is a valuable space to the homeowner. To go and put solar rooftops and then kill their evenings on a summer day or a party or weekend. In fact, having this discussion with Samuel, and he agreed with that, it's something that you have to think, which is very unique. Australia has got large homes, large rooftops, we do whatever we have to do. But here you may have to think why India may be very unique. That's number one. Number two, Samuel talked about 1 kilowatt inverter not being available in India. So maybe Reggie, I'm going to give that. He feels that 3 kilowatts seems to be the minimum. So he would like that a 1 kilowatt system may be cheaper for India to have. So with that, basically, I'm going to close. And Bala, then why don't you take over?
Thank you everyone for the insightful presentations and valuable contributions. And thank you for GIZ for the session partner. I would request Reena ma'am to give facilitation to our speakers.